unique unto themselves.
So do we, you're helping out with some films and TV series, it looks like. Does that often do we often misunderstand? Like, for example, what was the movie, Rain Man, I think it was? Mm-hmm. Did we get we saw one autistic person. That means we saw one. But did we get, as a nation, did we get a missed message? Or you know what I mean? Were we misled with that movie?
Good question, Larry. And, the thing is that Rain Man does represent a large percentage of the population of individuals with autism, and that's globally. I mean, autism looks the same on the face of the globe, everywhere. I travel extensively and do my autism movement therapy workshops in India and Malaysia, all over Europe, China 3 times. It all looks the same. Yes, Rain Man does represent a sect of the population of autism, and in due respect for Dustin Hoffman's character, he had a very, very complex skill set. Remember, he read cards.
Right, yeah.
So he was a numbers guy. What were the other characteristics or eligibility of autism a little off? Yeah, the social skill piece. Couldn't look someone in the eye. He had the repetition going on, the echolalia. And he had a speech and language issue. Those are the 3 criteria for autism: speech and language, behavioral, and social. So he represents autism, but he represents autism on a bell curve. He represents autism that's all the way over to the left, if you will, almost savant in many ways. And most of our individuals with autism, like any bell curve, are going to fall at the top. So they're not going to have the extremes that you saw with Rain Man.
So do you have to explain this every time? Are you working with a lot of employers?
I am working with a lot of employers, and I think we've come a long way since Rain Man. We're looking at Julia for Sesame Street. A brilliant idea to educate young individuals about the disability of autism, or the difference of autism, I like to say, because those kids are going to grow up with a whole other idea of what autism is, and they're ultimately going to be the employer. So when they sit across the desk from an individual with autism who comes in for a job, they're going to go, I know you. I went to school with you. I know Julia at Sesame Street. Hey, man. Oh, yeah, I've got a job for you. Right now we're working with, we have a couple of things that are challenges, I like to say. And that's that employers don't know what to expect with autism. They think, is it going to be, I'm going to have Dustin Hoffman sitting here?
Yeah.
What is this autism? And so it has to be an education. We have 50,000 individuals a year. Right now, 50,000 individuals in this country are graduating from high school and transitioning into the workforce, if they can. What we're not doing, and here's where the issue is, and this is where we need to play catch up, is that we're not graduating these individuals with skill sets that equate to a paycheck. So if we went back and rethought the public school system, Grandin and I are both, this is our big platform, and brought back vocational centers across the country in middle and high school, because they faded away in 2000 with the Bush administration, then we could be teaching and graduating these individuals with a skill set. So they walked into a bakery and said, hey, I know how to work in the oven here. I know how to bake muffins. As it is, they're walking into an employer and they're saying, I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. We focus so much on the academic, and that's the only key to success, but and as you pointed out, it never used to be. There used to be the opportunity for people to make a pretty good living, even though their academic skills were not the same as somebody who might, get a master's degree.
Absolutely, and I was just watching NBC yesterday. They were doing their Sunday. They do profiles a lot on Sunday, and they were talking about the employment rate. Unemployment rate has really gone down nationwide. But guess what? They can't fill these jobs, these blue-collar jobs. They can't find people to do them. We are the perfect population to do them.
Yeah, right.
So it just requires kind of a rethinking and a collaboration on Department of Labor, Department of Rehabilitation, and EdGov.
And I think politics really get in the way, because when we were speaking to the founder and the teachers at the New Horizon School,
Right.
when the children go to public school, they're allotted X number of dollars to go to public school. But if the public school can't meet their needs, they go to schools like New Horizon, but the money doesn't follow them to those schools. The government insists the money can't go there and has to stay in the public schools. So these schools, like New Horizon, have to continuously do fundraising events and things to help the students, even though they are technically part of the public school system.
Interesting, Robin, because guess what? It's not the same here in California, so that must be a state by state.
Oh.
Because here in California, when individuals, many parents go into IEPs with an attorney or an advocate because they want to advocate for the public school system has not served their child. In other words, there's mandates for IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that says that the individual has to be educated in a free and appropriate public education. That's called FAPE. Least restrictive environment, meaning goes to school with their typical peers as best as they can in placement. And if that can't happen in the public school system, then they advocate for going to a school like New Horizon, but they pay for that. The public school systems here pay for that.
Oh, now our state has to step up to the plate then.
Yeah, I don't know if
Maybe,
that's...
yes. I'm from Florida, so I know the politics of Florida as well. Yes, they do, and I've been doing a lot of radio in Florida. And I just certified a gal in Miami, Elizabeth Keeler, for autism movement therapy, which is a body-brain intervention movement and music program. So, you know, things are happening in Florida that need to kind of come to the forefront, if you will, and where parents know what's out there for their kids, and they're able to kind of take the reins and go, look, they drive the train, the parents drive the train.
Well,
They absolutely do.
That is probably, you're focusing on probably the one biggest fear that a lot of parents have for the futures of their autistic children is how are they going to be able to provide for themselves when the parents are gone? What's going to be their livelihood? And I think you've hit it on the head. You figured out a way to transition, as you said. We have another organization in town. I think this is a larger than our area. It's called ARC.
Yes.
Are you familiar with ARC?
Well,
and I know
all over the country, the oldest organization for people with disabilities in the country.
There you go. I didn't know that, but I know that organization here in Ocala has had quite a few placements in jobs. One example I can tell you was one of the young men who was from ARC was riding his bicycle in the rain. I mean, it was cold. It was, even though this is Florida, it was a cold, rainy day, and he was
Right.
he was still getting himself to his job, and he still made it there. So I remember thinking, we were talking about it on the air, how his work ethic was better than most of us.
Absolutely. Now, listen, ARC and organizations like that are doing a great job. What we're doing at Autism Works now is teaching pre-employment skills, 17 and older. And we have a book that we want everyone, and the organizations like ARC are our perfect target. My co-author is Susan Osborne. We have 90 pages that are going to be downloadable for educators and organizations to replicate the program.
Really?
So it's Autism Works now. It's called Teaching Pre-Employment Skills 14 to 17-year-olds. We got to start earlier, you see.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting too late to ask an individual with autism or disability in general. People with disabilities in general are not working. I need to say that. I need to broad blanket that, because I was with Hillary Clinton 10 months on her disability employment task force. She had a task force for education, for medical, for transportation, for job employment, which was the task force that I was on. And what we were seeing and what she was talking about as she got to the battleground states at the very end of the campaign was, I got to her, bring back vocational centers. I want to bring back vocational centers. I want to do away with what we call sheltered workshops and sub-minimum wage. Not sure if you're aware, but individuals with disabilities in general can be paid less.
I did not know that.
How unfair is that?
Yeah,
okay?
that is unfair. Yeah, oh my goodness. Well, how do they justify that? Is that across the board, or is that just here?
No, that's nationwide. Absolutely
That's
called
horrible.
sub-minimum wage, and we have what we call sheltered workshops, which we want to do away with, and that's another agenda that Obama was onto, and that Hillary was part of her platform.
How do you justify that? I mean, how do you justify an adult person working just as hard as the next adult person, but doesn't make the same amount of money?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No. Equal wage, equal pay. But here's what happened. It's the old model that hasn't been updated. You and I remember the model in the 60s and 70s. And when I say now, autism works now, we're advocating for individuals with autism and the autism spectrum for jobs. Oh, don't they go somewhere and stuff envelopes?
Right.
That's the idea that most Americans have of people with disabilities. Aren't they in some big room somewhere stuffing envelopes? No.
So tell us what jobs they do have. What jobs are they getting?
Well, what we're seeing now is, look, if we start at the top, Microsoft, the big organizations, well, they're looking for the next Temple. They're looking for the next Savant. They're looking to change the way we see technology. So that's a great thing, but those are one-offs usually. You know, we have individuals that are working for Microsoft, but not a large percentage. They are the savants, if you will, or the, you know, the Asperger's, the really high-functioning cognitive IQ individuals. What we do see is in grocery stores, we're seeing a lot of baggers, we're seeing a lot of put things on shelves, boxers, you know, in other words, going in and early in the morning or later in the evening and shelving. We also see in out here, we see at Walmart. Walmart employs individuals with disabilities. We also have Home Depot, where you see in the garden areas. But, you know, it's got to get bigger. What's happening is the big guys get a big tax incentive. So restructuring of the tax incentive for organizations has to happen, too.
So that's a good thing. That tax incentive to hire the folks.
Oh, yeah, whatever the incentive is. We're all good with that because incentive, you know, that's okay. That's fine. The middle guy gets an incentive. The little guy doesn't. And there's where we need restructuring because in a small community like where you are in Ocala. I went to University of Florida and I'm from Tampa, so I know that area. I'm sure it's grown since I've been there, but it's still considered a community. Who are the employers that are most apt to give individuals with autism a job? The small guy, because he can teach him the trade hands-on. He can coach him. He can teach him how to do the job, and then that individual's going to stay there for a long time. But he's not getting the same incentive that the big guys are.
Well,
to
Joanne,
hire.
the good news is, and this is just from an outsider looking in, that we have a lot of people who have your energy, who have your passion, who have your compassion, who are working with individuals with autism and other
related disorders.
I don't even know what to say there, but yeah, and they're really working hard, and I see them all the time. They're either driving or we broadcast from the mall, so I will quite often see we'll see the we see them coming in to go shopping, etc. And so I know that we have a really great, I guess, network of people kind of on the same wavelength as yourself, which is the good news. The question I have, though, is about the employment. I don't even know in our area what the wages are for them, and I would be disappointed if I found out that somebody, you know, working a full-time job was making less than they should.
Yeah, well, you might want to investigate that, and that could be a good show for you to do. But I want to talk about the ITP process for those parents that are listening.
Okay.
I don't know what your population of your listening.
It's everything. It's from college kids to retirees. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so I want to talk about the ITP because this is where we can start. Parents can start working a little harder and understanding how they can get their child prepared to work. Let's call it that. What's happening is that we're not preparing these individuals to work. So what's happening is they're 18 and all of a sudden somebody's saying to them, the ITP process, let me go back, is the individualized transition plan that's embedded into the IEP, the individual education plan. So anybody with a disability with special education eligibility, and there are 8 million IEPs in this country, that means there's a team meeting to say, how should we educate this individual for 8 million people? Part of that IEP plan, and I know I'm using a lot of acronyms, but follow me here, is when the child turns 14 or 16 in some states. It's state by state. Then we begin to say, how is this person's life going to look after they transition? What is it going to look like community-wise? What is it going to look like residentially? And what is it going to look like employment-wise? Those are the three domains that are addressed or should be addressed in the ITP. What's happening is we've got a fall down and a breakdown in the system, in the public school system. We are not addressing this. We are saying, you want to work at your father's mechanic store? Okay, great. We're putting that down. We're done. Next. Instead of using a formal assessment tool, which is supposed to happen, and the whole team, we have goals that should be happening. We should be addressing goals by so-and-so. By June of 2018, Andrew will have gotten an access pass to ride the bus, have ridden the bus to and from, is learning independently to ride the bus. In other words, these are all the things and the skill sets. Look, you got to get to work, don't you?
Sure, absolutely.
And your mom
Makes
and your
sense.
dad don't go to work with you.
Well, it sounds like you've got a good program. And you mentioned the 90-page booklet that is downloadable. How do we get that? Is that the website?
Yeah, it's a book and it's 90 pages of a template. It's not out yet. September. You can pre-buy it on autismworksnow.org.
Okay.
And it's called Teaching Pre-Employment Skills 14 to 17-Year-Olds, Autism Works Now Method. So it's a book, and you can replicate the program in your organization once a week for 2 hours.
Oh, very good. Okay, very good. That's a great resource. Hopefully the listeners will share this information. We'll put this up as a podcast so that can be done easily.
Lovely. And they're also welcome to get in touch with me. They can email me at joanne.lara@autismworksnow.org. They can go on the website. They can reach out to me if they want to know more about that. Look, we've got to get these guys working.
Yeah, it sounds like a really great program. If nothing else, it's showing. It's kind of it's very respectful to show somebody that they deserve to have the life that we all deserve. I just love what you're doing, Joanne.
Thank you so much. We want to ward off the what we call school to couch model.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. See, we don't want that at all. Joanne, Lara, thank you again. The autismworksnow.org is the website. autismworksnow.org. Joanne, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For the rest of the day, sunshine and some clouds continue with a thunderstorm. An afternoon high 88 to 91. A shower or thunderstorm in spots during the evening. Otherwise, tonight, partly cloudy with a low 71 to 74. Clouds and sun with a heavy thunderstorm around in the afternoon. Tomorrow, high 87 to 89. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Kevin.